With Razorpay and Meti joining hands, I can't wait to see what's next with this wonderful world of innovation. In some time now, Harshil and Shri P.S. Madana Gopal will be talking about growth on the startup stage. So if you're a founder, investor, or anyone interested in building in India, you will want to be in that room. But at this point in time, on the stage right now, we have a fantastic conversation lined up for you all. It is a very interesting conversation, and it's all about turning your WhatsApp and Insta DMs into money. I personally shall be taking notes. We're delighted to have with us today on stage the Vice President and Head India Meta, Sandhya Devanathan, and she will be in conversation with co-founder and MD of Razorpay, Shashank Kumar. A session you do not want to miss. Give them a huge round of applause. Thank you. Thank you both so much for being here. This is super exciting.
Hello? Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So we have Sandhya with us, and when I think about Meta, right, the family of apps that Meta has, from Facebook to WhatsApp to Instagram and now Threads, right? I feel like if any company understands the pulse of India, right, really well, whether it's India One or Bharat, it's probably Meta at this point of time, right? And today now, after the Geo movement and the proliferation of social media among all our lives, right, there's so much happening at the intersection of, I would say, like, social media, fintech, commerce, AI, and I think Meta is in some ways at the center of it. So I wanted to ask, how are you, on the platform view that you have and the Meta's vantage point that is present, right? How are you seeing commerce evolve in different ways in India, especially on platforms like WhatsApp and Instagram?
Firstly, good to be here, Shashank, and it was good to spend some time earlier in the Speakers Lounge talking about everything that's happening in India and what you're seeing, what we're seeing. It's an exciting time to be here, and it's exciting to be here at this event as well. Kudos, this is your 7th or 8th year, right, of doing this, so
10th, yeah.
10th. Delighted to be here, and thank you for having me. So look, when we talk about commerce, I think if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I wouldn't have said this, but if you look at something that is dominant, that's across, and I'm sure speakers ahead of me have also spoken about it, is the very real sort of emergence of quick commerce, right? And I think that's been pretty fascinating for us also to see play out on our platforms, and I'll give you some stats just in a little bit on what we're seeing there. But I think that's been really interesting for us to see as something that's taken off in a very, very major way. And the second thing that I would say, and this is something I've spoken about before, and I'll reiterate, and I think we just had, someone mentioned this as well, which is solving for tier 2 and tier 3 city, because tier 3 cities as well, because we are seeing commerce, take off in a major way, especially on WhatsApp in these cities, and I think I want to talk a little bit about that. But talking about, quick commerce itself, if you just give me a minute, I think we did a study with GWI a few months ago, and we saw two things. One is Gen Z is actually shaping a lot of the quick commerce behavior in terms of they're the early adopters. They talk about it to people, and I think 87% of those Gen Zs also make purchasing decisions on, based on what they see on Instagram. So we feel like it's a perfect match, right? For quick commerce on our platforms. The second that I would say is what we're seeing on quick commerce started off as just groceries and personal care goods. Now we're seeing pretty much everything, right? Everything from iPhones selling out to, festive purchases to high-ticket items. I think that's been interesting also to see. And some of the conversations we're having as, a company with many of the businesses that we serve has been an increasing interest in quick commerce and how, they continue to, either they've launched, many companies have launch their own versions of quick commerce offerings, or they're looking to get in the game if they're in that space. So I think that's been interesting. The second thing I would say is that Instagram is where India is a land of creators. Depending on the study that you read, there's 100 million creators and counting. Who's counting, actually? Maybe more, right? But they are shaping a lot of the buying decisions as well in the country. So I feel like this is playing out in tier 2 and tier 3 cities in terms of what people are consuming, what they're thinking about buying, and what their next purchase will be. And what makes it easier is probably, for example, the work we're doing together on flows, on WhatsApp, and things like that, making it seamless for them within the platform.
So you mentioned about quick commerce, right? And I think all of us experience quick commerce and obviously use all the quick commerce apps, right? But I feel like that is still pretty much a phenomena in the top cities of India. I think it's sometimes easy to forget about how big India is, right? Sitting in Bangalore. And last I remember, I think WhatsApp itself, for example, in the last announcement, I said like it has more than 400 million users, and that's an old number. Probably at this point, it's more than 500 million in India, right? So, and there's a lot of commerce happening on WhatsApp as well. So some of the people here, our employees, my cousins, they do all their discovery and shopping on Instagram. But a lot of people back in my hometown, for example, right? I mean, they are using WhatsApp for a bunch of different things. So this evolution of quick commerce on one hand, but also this evolution of conversational on WhatsApp, commerce on WhatsApp, right? How do you see it evolving? How do you see that, with the real India being on WhatsApp, how can people build on top of it? How can people take advantage of that user base?
I think I just want to make a correction. Real India is also on Instagram, right? So I would say that Instagram is no longer an urban phenomenon as well. And that's why I was tying it back to, I think, what we'll probably see is quick commerce today is an urban phenomenon. I expect it to get to tier 2 and tier 3 cities. But before we talk about that, based on the economics, of course, because it's expensive and you'll have to crack the code on that. But I would say on tier 2 and tier 3 cities, what we are seeing is one, just the explosion, as I said, of creators, but also how they're actually, influencing purchasing. I think when we did a survey, we found that 1/3 of the people in, across on Instagram had actually bought a product recommended by an influencer. So I think that then ties to WhatsApp, which is your first port of call may not be an app that you download and purchase. If you make it a little seamless and make it available on WhatsApp, then I think sort of closes the loop in terms of a business trying to reach to real Bharat, as you called it, in terms of finding a larger a larger consumer base, and get their message across. We have now click to WhatsApp, which is you can do the discovery on Instagram, on Facebook, and then, land the actual conversation on WhatsApp. So we built that with that in mind, and we're seeing that actually explode on our platform in terms of usage. So you just see the ad, but once you click, you get onto WhatsApp. And what I would say on WhatsApp that we're seeing is respondents are getting increasingly more and more comfortable with actually buying things on WhatsApp. This is also dated, but last year we did a survey with Bain, and 60% of the respondents had actually, said that they'd used WhatsApp to make a purchasing decision. On our own platform, we see around 1 billion messages globally being sent to businesses. We see around 600 million, I think, a week, and I think we see almost, 60%, that number is actually our number, 60% of people contact a business on WhatsApp. So we're seeing this not as an urban phenomenon. We're actually seeing people getting more and more comfortable and building trust with contacting a business on WhatsApp. So I would say there is a lot of discovery and, small business-led discovery and large businesses on WhatsApp, on Instagram, but we're also seeing that now increasingly happen on WhatsApp. Because if you think about it, like you're not downloading an app, you're not learning something completely new, you don't want to have 10 apps, and I say this constantly, your first port of call may not immediately be, if you've not tried online shopping, may not be downloading an app. It's being on a surface that you're comfortable with, and for most people, it's messaging services like ours, like I'm sure there are others as well. but we're seeing that actually, take off in a major way in the last 2 years.
I think that is true. Like, I mean, driving discovery of an app and getting an app downloaded is difficult. And I'm sure like a lot of startups obviously, advertise and market a lot and can drive that, right? But how do like, small entrepreneurs or how do people, interacting with their users on WhatsApp, right? Drive their product discovery on WhatsApp. Can you share some interesting stories, on how people are leveraging WhatsApp commerce or WhatsApp conversations, for example, for driving that conversation between businesses and customers? And also, I think something, like how can consumers like me, right? I mean, how can businesses ensure that consumers like me don't feel spammed in some sense when, when businesses reach out with any kind of messages?
So I think we've actually built a lot of tools around that in terms of, in fact, the number one complaint I get from many businesses is you're not letting me send as many messages as I would like to users, right? So we
Leave to businesses, I think they would send messages to all the consumers on WhatsApp, right?
No, but I get it. It's like an interesting, on one hand, we want people to find value from WhatsApp, be it whether, it's you and I messaging each other on WhatsApp, or be it me, I actually bought this dress on WhatsApp, right? So I saw something on Instagram, and closed the sale on WhatsApp. The payment link was sent to me on WhatsApp, and, we closed it. In fact, in many places now, the catalog and the ability to pay is all on WhatsApp. But I would say that what we want to do is strike a balance. We want to make sure that people find value from businesses, but at the same time, we want to make sure, they aren't getting spammed. So that's been, you can block, messages you don't want. You can report like businesses that are spamming you. So there's lots of controls that we've built in and continue to build in as we evolve the platform. But coming to your question on some interesting stories, right? I'll start with a larger business and then I'll get to a smaller one. And this one I think you'll all find useful. So I was sharing it with Shashank earlier. Indigo now lets you check in on WhatsApp. And what happened was our WhatsApp global leadership team had come for a product immersion. We found it really difficult to actually get on the website, and we all got our boarding passes because we were heading for a product immersion on WhatsApp almost instantly, and we'd just done the demo with the Indigo team. So
Last minute check-in is always very difficult, so yeah, I can totally relate to that.
It's super easy, you get it instantly. And like if you think about why that works, and they've not really advertised it, but they're seeing some huge numbers, of people actually using it for boarding passes. They thought they'd also, and they thought their first use case would be people buying tickets. They've been surprised about, as they evolve the entire customer journey from buying a ticket, checking in, adding baggage, whatever else, they're finding that people are adopting it across the entire engagement journey with Indigo. So that I thought was a really powerful example, and they use it, they use an AI-powered chatbot. So we'll talk about that as well. I think the power of WhatsApp gets amplified when you add payments and when you add AI into it, right? So for businesses. That's one example that stood out. HDFC Bank, I'm a happy, loyal HDFC customer. And they've offered more than 200 services all on WhatsApp. Everything from fraud alert to credit limit increases to actually booking fixed deposits instantly on WhatsApp. So people are, companies are thinking about it in a very different way. What that does is, as people get more and more comfortable using WhatsApp, it also means that smaller businesses can engage a lot more with users on WhatsApp and close the loop. We launched Flows. You were there at our WhatsApp Conversation Summit. Since then, we've seen a lot of small businesses actually also adopt WhatsApp in a meaningful way. One example I will give you is somebody that we work with closely, Krishna Ayurveda, based in Jaipur, has actually reimagined their flows on WhatsApp. And what they saw was actually a 25% increase in productivity and a 40% sort of increase in their actual sales volume. So it was a pretty good success story, and we see this time and again. And I really would like to believe that WhatsApp is actually making it easier for tier 2 and tier 3 entrepreneurs to actually, you don't have to set up a website, you set up a catalog pretty instantly. You can use our free WhatsApp business messaging app, and then reach your audience, so I think, and your customer base.
I think generally what I felt, right, every time a new channel opens up, when there was shift from desktop to mobile, then to social media, and then now enabling conversations on WhatsApp, right? There's always opportunity for new startups and new companies to be created, right? So as we move from retail to e-commerce and now e-commerce to quick commerce, for example, right? Every time this new channel and this shift happens, there's opportunity for new category companies to get created. So just like you saw a lot of brands and D2C brands coming up in the age of e-commerce, and now again suddenly a lot more brands will come up with quick commerce and with Instagram that all of us are seeing, right? I think there's also an opportunity for creating really interesting stories and companies building on top of WhatsApp, right? Because it enables distribution at a level which is simply not possible before. So for a young entrepreneur or for a small entrepreneur, right? I mean, how can they leverage some of these things? Like, what would you advise them if they want to get the best out of WhatsApp conversations, WhatsApp payments? How can they go about it?
Look, I think the WhatsApp business messaging app is free, right? So I would say that should be their first port of call. For businesses that are a little smaller but a little more established and want to reach audiences at a, say pan-India, you've set up, you're growing, you want to reach a wider audience. I would say that we have discovery tools like Click to WhatsApp that I talked about, which is the discovery happens on Facebook and Instagram. Through an ad that you run, right, talking about your business and your product, and then you close the loop. If you think about it, you can then, because thanks to the work that we're doing with folks like you and others, you can actually close the payment within WhatsApp, because it's not just WhatsApp payments, it's UPI, so it's you can pay across a multitude of providers within WhatsApp. But what that means is, and you'll know this, half the time people abandon carts because of friction, right? There is some friction, you're interested in the moment, it doesn't happen, you don't get to it later. And I think for small businesses, that's a real pain point. So I think that's one that we've tried to address with building in, product features, like I said, like Flows lets you set up a really intuitive, product buying experience, and that, you can avail of as a small business. The second is just, the other bit that I want to double click on is the WhatsApp business messaging app itself has become really sophisticated. You can set your catalogs, you can set reminders, you can bulk send emails to some of your users. So there's messages to some of your customers. So you can do things like that, which I think it's just getting more and more powerful and is a real tool for businesses to use. And as you sort of get larger and bigger, you should use definitely our discovery tools, but you should also, we have a very robust network of partners, BSPs and ISVs across the country. And they can, usually work with you to sort of help you reimagine your experience for what that would look like on a messaging app and how you reach your audience and using paid messaging.
So that's very interesting. I'm sure, a lot of us will try Indigo onboarding next time on WhatsApp and probably get inspired by the experience, right? I know, for example, one of the companies has built a bot on WhatsApp where you can upload your grocery list, right, and they would populate the cart using that grocery list as well, and then you can check out also. And the abandoned cart story actually is very, very relevant. I know that we partner with a lot of D2C brands because I think all of us know this, and probably all of us have done this as well, that we often do impulse purchases, right? Sometimes in the middle of the day, sometimes late at night. But if the payments fail, right, or if the experience is not great, then usually we tend to drop off. And I think the reminders on WhatsApp, on abandoned cart, often work well in bringing back those users and driving those conversions as well. And I've also seen now that a lot of government entities, a lot of banks, for example, are doing their fixed deposit booking on WhatsApp, doing their loan repayments on WhatsApp. So I'm seeing a lot more new use cases emerge as well. I'm actually pretty excited to see what kind of innovation will come through in the next few years, and shifting track a little bit with the conversation we have around AI today, right? And I feel like in WhatsApp, and you guys have invested a lot across Meta in the open source models on Llama and all, and made it available at the click of a button, literally on WhatsApp itself, that I can go and ask the AI any kind of queries that I have, right? So can you talk about what is the what is the open source philosophy for Meta? Why go down the open source route, right? We saw recently DeepSeek as a model coming out and again, lowering down the cost of AI significantly. So how can the companies, in the room leverage AI from Meta, right? And at a low cost, right? Because it's usually very expensive when you rely on a lot of proprietary models. And how can they build on top of the Meta's ecosystem, leveraging that AI?
A great question. I think before we go there, I just wanted, you talked about what's the evolution of WhatsApp, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the actual use cases that we're seeing in the public-private partnership space. And we just announced 2 weeks ago a partnership with the government of Andhra Pradesh called Manamitra. It's a chatbot which actually brought together almost, I think, 36 government departments and offered 161 services, citizen services, in, when you, with just one phone number conversation that you have on WhatsApp.
What are these services, for example?
Temple darshan, so you can book. Tirupati is not online yet, but hopefully at some point. But big temples. I'm from Andhra, so temples in Vizag and Vijayawada, all of that, temple darshans, revenue services, paying electricity bills, getting updates on your grievances, getting things like encumbrance certificates. It's like birth certificates also, I think, are in there. But the bit is, if you think about it, you actually, APSRTC, which is their bus services, tickets, if you're traveling between cities, what we've seen is I don't have numbers to share, but it's publicly, but it's really taken off in a major way. And to your point on where does that go, imagine if you then add a layer of AI onto it, where somebody sitting in a tier 3 city is just speaking in, or somewhere else, or even in a metro who's speaking in their local language and says in Telugu and says, get me tickets, I want to travel from Vizag to Vijayawada. And it's all voice bot enabled and it happens on the fly. So I think there's real power in using a highway like ours, as a platform like ours, and building services on AI, which brings me to the question that you asked, which is...
that sounds really cool. So, some of these services that you talked about, like, for example, getting the birth certificate or the bus ticket booking. So I don't need to go to the website or the app to do this, right? I can do it on WhatsApp itself. So how do I discover these services? Like, because that itself, that
the AP government's been talking about it. There's just one phone number, right? So yes, we do not have search for that on WhatsApp as yet, if that's your question. But the AP government's doing a fabulous job of talking about the number and how you can actually avail of the services. And we're seeing that also in the number of people using the bot. But I think over a period of time, I think what they've also done is they've integrated payments within that. So you can actually finish the payment experience for the certificate within WhatsApp as well. So you see, there's a flow, there is, services, there's integration and there's payments there. And I think the next evolution of that will be it being AI powered. Which sort of brings me to the question that you asked on open source. And I think I want to sort of talk about, where we've been using AI for a very long time, right? We'll get to Gen AI in a minute. 2006 was when we started using AI in our newsfeed. I think 2013 was when we set up FAIR, which is our fundamental AI research lab, which, over a long period of time has really helped in the advancement of AI research as we know it. We've released more than 1,000 data sets and models and continue to do that to researchers, to developers, to academia around so that they can all build on AI. PyTorch, which I'm sure your team uses, is also Meta open sourced approach released, right? So I think what we've done is for long we've believed in the power of open source. Mark has talked about it many, many times. And it's not, one, I think when the community builds, they build better together. You learn from each other. And two, over a period of time, we found it's helped make our own usage of our open source products, smarter, faster time to execution, fewer errors. So it's good across the board. So I think that's been very fundamental to what we've done. So that's why we released Llama as an open source model. Since then, we've released multiple versions of Llama. And just to give some numbers, it's been downloaded more than 650 million times. And over a period of time, you'd have seen inferencing costs come down. We've introduced now Llama Stack, which helps developers actually build their own agentic tools on top of Llama. And lots of Indian startups and developers are already using Llama. So Sarvam built a local language model on top of Llama. I think you are experimenting with Llama. A lot of large companies, including InfoEdge, use Llama. So we've been quite buoyed by what we've seen within India in terms of not just large enterprises using our open sourced model, but also smaller startups and developers building on Llama. Just to give you some examples, just yesterday I was at the Nudge Institute. We launched our Pragati Cohort 6. It's a program that we've been doing for 6 years, and we identify really promising non-profits or social impact organizations and support and mentor them and give them grants. So this time round, we've made it focused on how AI can be used to solve large-scale population problems. And the 9 startups, one was Adalat.ai was looking at actually fast-tracking, using AI to fast-track court cases in India. One more was looking at education. There was another that talked about how we can, farmers for forests, I think, around what they can do on farming and actually doing carbon capture. So there are lots of interesting problems that startups, non-profits, large enterprises are using to solve with Llama. We really remain buoyed by that. We've seen Pratham, we've seen a whole bunch of companies and startups innovate on Llama.
I think if anything can help fast track court cases, I think I'm all for it. But I think on a serious, sure. But on a serious note, I think it's. I think Meta is probably the only big tech company, right, which has really open sourced its AI models, and I think our teams have also really experimented on top of it and trying to build stuff on top of it, because at a cost level, I think it really creates significant difference when you're hosting those models in-house, and you don't have to worry about data security or data going across boundaries, right? So you get much more control, and it allows for very quick experimentation as well. So we definitely look forward to from Meta a lot more stuff coming out on AI. So I think one last closing question: what will be if you have any prediction or anything that you can talk about the roadmap of Meta, for India in the coming year or in the next few years?
So I think one, we talked about AI, and I want to also talk about the usage of AI on our platform and why that remains important, over the coming years. We've actually seen Meta AI since it was launched. I think last year we've seen almost 700 million people use it globally, and India is one of the largest countries for Meta AI usage, which is usage of Meta AI within Instagram, within WhatsApp. So we've seen a lot, and it's surprised us the kind of use cases that we've seen people using it for. I talked about this with the Build with Meta AI Day. Outside of Varanasi, when we were doing our product immersion, there was a young mother who was using WhatsApp Meta AI to actually answer questions for her son in school, for his school. So we see things like that already happening on our platform. I think that will continue definitely to be a focus in terms of how we can get the goodness of AI and, in a broader way, not just on our platforms with open source, how, we can partner with more and more companies, startups, small businesses on how they use AI. The second bit that I would say is, the tools that we provide for businesses using our platform. So we provided a lot of Gen AI tools now for businesses to use AI, and Mark shared this number for, during our earnings, more than 4 million businesses have already used one of our Gen AI products. So it could be image creation, image enhancement, right? Testing multiple creatives, because if you're a small business, you don't want to be thinking about, does this picture look good for me to run an ad?
Where do I use these tools? Like I can just go to the ads platform and generate the creatives?
Yes, you can. And we've done the same thing now with AI Creator Studio as well for creators, AI Studio. So I think so we see AI as serving our users, serving businesses, serving creators. And with Llama, we see the open source bit serving large enterprises, developers, startups. So that's how we think about, AI, and, we'll continue to invest in that. And our commitment to open source will remain. And that's something that's central to what we do as a company. So that's one. The second I would say is, I think in India we have a real opportunity to be, I tell my team this as well, we're at a phenomenal point, with the kind of growth India is looking at getting to in 2030, and, the kind of transformation that is real and happening in our country today. So I think we want to play a small role in that, be it like what I talked about, which is what we're building on WhatsApp, or, how we're thinking about Instagram and Facebook, and now more recently Threads. So I think that will continue to be an endeavor, which is how can we add more value to businesses that we serve, to users that we serve, and the creators that we serve. So that's the other bit that we're pretty focused on.
Great, perfect. Thanks a lot, Sandhya, for coming here. I think we are out of time. Otherwise, we would have done a couple of questions as well. So yeah, thanks a lot for coming in and sharing your thoughts. And yeah, we all look forward to Meta interacting with all the entrepreneurs and people in the ecosystem, and we'll continue to build on top of it.
Yeah, thank you so much.